What is happening, trophy hunters? How is everyone doing today? Now, on the channel, I get asked this almost every single day. What are some of the best games on PlayStation? Staying in theme with everything that I've been doing lately on the summer sale, which ends in about 4 or 5 days from now, I thought we'd take a look at 10 hidden gems that are available on the summer sale now. These are games that are really top-notch, high-quality games, but they're likely going to be games that you haven't played and haven't heard of before. This video has actually changed a few times as well. I started it before the summer sale's games changed over. Since they changed, they removed like 4 or 5 of the games that I had featured in this list, so I had to come back and find new games. And while that's annoying, it means that maybe we can do a sequel of this list at some point in the future. So this is 10 hidden gems that are available on the PlayStation 4, and all 10 of these games are also on sale currently as part of the PlayStation Store Summer Sale. Let's get on with the list of games. I also do want to interject just before we kick off with the list. I have started a Twitch channel recently, and I'd really appreciate it if you guys came over there and checked it out as well. Link down here below, also in the description if you want to click on it there. Thank you guys, let's get on with the list. Alright, the first game today is A Plague Tale: Innocence. Now this is a stealth action game that came out last year, and you know, it really didn't get a ton of publicity when it launched. However, the game is actually really good. You play in this, like, I guess 20th, well, not 20th, like pre-20th century London during a plague, which is kind of topical given everything that's happening at the moment. And it's a stealth game. You have to use fire to avoid rats and things like that. And it just has some really interesting and neat mechanics. The game has a pretty decent platinum as well. It's a 3 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, and it's going to take you around 15 or so hours to earn the platinum trophy. So it's not actually a very challenging or difficult platinum either, but it's a game well worth checking out if you haven't played it before. Now, maybe a little bit more known, Dead by Daylight. This is a game that came out a couple of years ago on PC and then eventually migrated across to PlayStation. It was free on PlayStation Plus a couple of years back now, so quite a few of you may have already picked it up and may already own this game. It's an asymmetrical horror game. There's essentially 2 teams. One plays as survivors, the other plays killers. The killer's job is to kill the survivors by hooking them. The survivor's job is to power generators to escape the map. I love this game. This is probably my favorite game on this list, and it's because of how random it is. I personally really do dig horror games like Silent Hill. A lot of you guys know that already. And this game kind of ratchets up the horror that these games evoke and randomizes it because the killer is a player as well. Now, the other interesting mechanics in the game is the killer plays in first person, whereas the survivors play in third person, and you can really choose. You want to play the whole game as a killer, the whole game as a survivor, that's completely fine. You can choose to play to whichever preference you like, and it's just great. Honestly, if you haven't played this game yet, go and check it out. You might already own it for free from PlayStation Plus. If you don't know, it is on sale at the moment as well, and it's well worth the price investment. The game also continues to getting supported with ongoing DLC, giving it new killers, and whether it be licensed killers and things like that, and more recently, Silent Hill characters actually got added to the game. Now, the trophies for this one aren't a cakewalk. They are very time consuming, and some of them are quite challenging as well. On PlayStationTrophies.org, they're estimating around a 7 out of 10 difficulty and about 100 hours to platinum. So it's not an easy feat. I would say that's about accurate. I think 100 to 120 hours or so is about right for the platinum on this one. I am proud to say that I have this one on my trophy cabinet. Now, Greedfall is another game that I've talked about briefly on the channel as well. This is essentially a third-person action game. Think kind of like Dragon Age, and you're in sort of the right ballpark. This is a game developed by the developer Spiders Interactive. They've done a couple of these kind of BioWare-esque type games, and I feel like they're trying to be kind of a budget BioWare to a degree. But this game is really neat. It does some really neat things with RPG, fantasy mechanics and things like that. The game plays really well, and it is a lot of fun. The trophies aren't so bad in it. It's going to take you around 70 hours to earn the platinum, and it's going to be about a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty for this one as well. But the game is well worth checking out. It's also available on PlayStation Now currently, so if you do have a subscription to that, you might be able to pick the game up for free on PlayStation Now. Now, this is an oldie but a goodie. Payday II Crime Wave Edition. It's discounted pretty heavily on the PlayStation Store sale. The reason I'm including it is because this game, while it's old, it does have a ton of just endless fun in it. The trophies aren't an easy feat. I'll get those out of the way straight off the bat. It's a 6 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, and it's going to take you around 50 or so hours to complete, including on the hardest difficulties, which are challenging. Payday 2 is a 4-person co-op crime game, essentially. You rob banks and commit different crimes as your gang of masked criminals, and there's just a ton of content in the game. They continued to add DLC to this game on PC for a very long time. Eventually those big content drops did come to PlayStation, but it was a little bit late, unfortunately, and there hasn't been a massive community around the game since then. But there is a pretty decent amount of content in this game. If you picked it up now, you've got more than 60 hours worth of content to play in this thing, and since it's so cheap, it could be worthwhile for your time investment, especially if you're wanting to play a really decent co-op game with a couple of your mates. Now, this is probably the most mainstream game on the list, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor. This one came out in 2014, I believe. Quite popular earlier in the generation, but I really haven't heard anything about it since then. And essentially this is set in the Lord of the Rings universe. It's a third-person action fantasy game, obviously, in that universe as well. The gameplay is very much akin to the Batman Arkham games. You've got that sort of attack, dodge, roll mechanic that Batman features so heavily, and these guys have adopted that and implemented it really, really well in this universe as well. It also uses this really cool mechanic called the Nemesis system, and the idea behind that is that you have to attack these orc armies, and if one of the orc armies kills you, he gets kind of powered up a little bit and beefed up, and you'll have to encounter him again later in the game. And depending on whether you kill him or he kills you, will depend on whether he obviously dies or then becomes an enemy of you or a rival of you, essentially, that you need to hunt down. So you kind of have these like additional stakes in the game as well. Now, the trophy list isn't that bad. It's a 3 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, and it's going to take you around 25 hours to complete. So a pretty straightforward open world platinum with this one. Now, Judgment, or better known in Japan as Judge Eyes, is I guess a third-person Yakuza style game. It's developed by the devs of Yakuza, but instead of playing as a Yakuza, you're playing as a cop, and you're sort of the hero this time around. Well, you kind of are in the Yakuza games as well. Anyway, this game here is more of a crime-solving action game, I suppose I would say, but it still has all those crazy things that are featured in Yakuza as well, all those mini-games, that semi-open world Japan that you can explore. It's weird because this game came out last year in the West, and it really didn't get a ton of publicity or anything at all. And this game is fantastic. If you enjoy the Yakuza games at all, you're going to absolutely love this game, and I highly, highly recommend you checking it out. In terms of trophies, it's about a 6 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. It's going to take you around 70 to 80 hours or so to complete. The trophy list is very similar to a Yakuza trophy list in terms of kind of ticking the boxes and all those different little bits and pieces as you go. But the game is great. It's highly recommended from me, and I really, really would suggest checking it out considering how cheap it is on sale. I don't know if it's a theme with this list, but there's another co-op game here. This is another 4-person co-op game called World War Z. This is third-person shooter, I suppose. It's a horde shooter, basically, if you think kind of like Left 4 Dead, but I guess maybe a little bit more tactical and obviously third-person as well. Then that's kind of where you're at with this one. This one, it's based on the movie and the books, but not really. You go through a whole bunch of different environments and levels, killing zombies as your crew of people. The game is a pretty challenging plat, to be fair. It's about a 7 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. It's probably going to take you upwards of about maybe 150 or so hours. A lot of that will be replaying missions, but quite often with these 4-player co-op games, a lot of the gameplay is just replaying missions and getting better loot and leveling up with your friends, and that's kind of the main hook with it. And 150 hours when you're playing with your mates can actually go by pretty fast. So if you're looking for another 4-person co-op game to play with your friends, this could be the one for you. I don't know if I've talked about Call of Cthulhu on the channel before, but it's a narrative-driven, I guess, Sherlock Holmes-esque game. The game is told from a first-person perspective, and it's this, I guess, based on this H.P. Lovecraft short story of Call of Cthulhu. It's an interesting, I guess a narrative puzzle game is probably the best way to describe how this one is. Trophy-wise, this is probably one of the easiest on the list. It's a 2 out of 10 in terms of difficulty, and it's going to take you around 15 hours to platinum, so it's the shortest and actually probably the easiest as well. It's got an interesting story. I mean, it's pretty crazy, it's pretty out there, but it's worth checking out, and I guarantee a lot of you guys haven't heard of this one. Almost at the end, and we have Remnant from the Ashes. Now, this is one that completely passed me by when it came out, and I was shocked when I actually saw this game, and how high quality this game was. This is essentially a Dark Souls clone, or a Souls-like game, I would have to say. It's got this kind of sci-fi feeling, but also it's got this non-sci-fi fantasy feeling. It kind of tries to tackle both. It's weird. It's a really strangely developed game, but it does actually play very well. Obviously, you've got that heavy-hitting enemies from the Souls series and that kind of like death mechanic from the Souls series. I don't even know if that's a thing. And then on top of that, you've got your melee combat, but you've also got this third-person shooter combat as well. It's weird. They're doing some interesting stuff with it. Look, the game isn't perfect, but the game is definitely interesting. The combat is fun. It's definitely worth your time. It's worth checking out. This one came out in 2019 as well. And like I said, I didn't know about this game until the beginning of this year, and I was shocked that it even came out and missed me. I completely missed it. Trophy-wise, it's about a 4 out of 10. It's going to take you about 60 or so hours to platinum this one as well. So it's a pretty time-consuming platinum, but, you know, it's about on par with everything else. All right, now the last game on this list is Golf with Your Friends. Now, if you've been on the channel for a while now, you'll know that I really love this game. This was super fun when it came out. It's a co-op golf game, basically. It's very arcadey. It's very silly. You choose the power and the angle, and you just whack the golf ball. The physics are wild. There's tons of maps and levels and stuff to play. And, you know, it's just a lot of fun. I played this whole game co-op and I was laughing the entire way through it. It's really, really good. In terms of trophies, there is an estimate on PlayStationTrophies.org, but I think it's wrong. In my personal opinion, it's about a 2 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. It's going to take you around 10 hours to platinum. Now, what I'd suggest doing in this one, play through the whole game, have a blast with it, play with some friends and enjoy it, then go back afterwards to clean up the trophies. Just use a guide. Figure out exactly where you need to line up your shots and the amount of power to line up those shots, and you'll be able to platinum this game in a cakewalk. It's really, really easy. With a guide, it's pretty much hitting where exactly they tell you and with the exact amount of power, and you can't miss the hole in one. There we go. That is 10 games that are currently available on the PlayStation Store Summer Sale that I bet you haven't heard of. Now, you may have heard of some of them, but I guarantee you there was at least one game, you know what, maybe at least 2 or 3 games on this list that you've never heard of before and that definitely wasn't on your radar. I can vouch for all of these. I've played all of these games to some capacity, and they're all great games. They're all really, really solid games that have just gone under the radar this generation. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more videos like this, leave suggestions for these kind of videos in the comment section down below. I'm really open to making list videos about things you want to see. This video was completely spawned out of users asking for a top 10 hidden gems video. So that's why this exists. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it though. If you did, leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Follow me over on Twitch, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great evening. Bye for now.